Whoops! In the void, countless lights and shadows surged out from the black heavy sword, turning into a black sword rainbow that filled the sky, and collided heavily with the black sickle in the hand of Atkinson Tower Master. Boom! The terrifying impact, like a galaxy explosion, spread in all directions, and the terrifying spiritual pressure dissipated, hitting the void like water, causing countless ripples. The terrifying power generated by the cold hands of both sides was transmitted, causing the faces of McGrady and others around them to change drastically, and their bodies to involuntarily retreat backwards, even though they were all 9th-level advanced masters. But under the terrible impact of Jason and Atkinson's attacks, they all retreated quickly, not daring to be careless at all. The smoke and dust in the sky obscured everything and dispersed the entire safe area. The terrifying pressure shook the 9 heavens and 10 places, making people feel boundless fear from the bottom of their hearts. Jason. As Bispham and the others retreated, they looked anxiously at where the battle was taking place, worried in their hearts. Amidst the deafening roar, 2 figures appeared from everyone's sight, and they all flew away from the waves of spiritual energy in the sky. It was Atkinson and Jason. At this moment, their faces were pale, and their bodies were full of energy. The robes were somewhat damaged, and even stains of blood could be seen. Obviously, they had suffered serious injuries in the previous battles. This Atkinson is indeed worthy of being a powerful 9th-level Holy Spirit Master and the #1 person in Stern Continent. Jason couldn't help but marvel at the 9th-level intermediate spiritual power that suppressed the tumbling in his heart. Once the God of War possession in his God of War technique is used, his combat power will increase tenfold in an instant. It is extremely powerful and can kill ordinary 9th-level high-level Deshang Holy Spirit Masters. However, when facing Atkinson, he just fought with him. A tie made Jason dare not look down on Atkinson. However, facing such a result, Jason not only did not have any worries in his heart, but became even more excited. As he rose along the way, his strength increased rapidly. He eagerly hoped to fight against the strong, and the ordinary 9th-level advanced the Holy Spirit Master was no match for him at all, which made him extremely depressed. Only a peak powerhouse like Atkinson could completely arouse the fighting spirit in his heart. On the contrary, compared to Jason, Atkinson was extremely shocked, frightened and angry, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. I can kill this Jason, who was an 8th-level Emperor Spirit Master 2 years ago. Even more than a year ago, he was an 8th-level peak Emperor Spirit Falcon. Although his strength is comparable to that of a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, but in my hands, I can't stop even one move. But now, in just over a year, Jason's amazing growth made Atkinson feel an extremely huge crisis in his heart. In this fight, he had nothing but in addition to plundering the Dark System Law Divine Chain obtained by Jason, it is also to prevent Bispham from obtaining the Life System Law God Chain in the Grey Fog area far away, so that his strength will increase by leaps and bounds and affect his status. But at this moment, in Atkinson's heart, Jason's threat to him far exceeded that of Bispham. No, I must kill this Jason here today. Otherwise, if he is allowed to grow, the consequences will be disastrous. Atkinson looked ferocious and made up his mind completely. On the battlefield, both sides quickly retreated due to the aftermath of the explosion, but in their hearts, in this short period of time, they already had a more determined idea. Just when Jason was rushed out by the aftermath of the explosion, he was about to attack Atkinson again. Haha! Death! 2 wild and arrogant laughter sounds suddenly came from behind Jason. At the same time, 2 unparalleled terrifying spiritual powers were aimed at Jason like a tsunami. The cover came down hard. Jason, be careful. Be careful. In the distance, the angry roar of the master of Bispham Tower and others came from the distance. In the previous shocking battle, the direction Jason was blown away by the aftermath of the explosion was exactly where Westcott and Boulder, the mainland cultivators who had colluded with the master of Atkinson Tower, were. These 2 people saw Jason, the direction of the throw was exactly his own direction. He immediately seized the opportunity and wanted to take advantage of Jason's injury. He was unable to recover for a while and launched the most violent attack. 3000 Flame Fire Technique, Destroy the Flame Dragon. Water Emperor Technique, Water and Skyline Cut. Two ferocious roars resounded throughout the world. With the roars of the two people, countless people were heard between the heaven and the earth. The water and fire elements went completely berserk, and a large number of the two elements gathered together to form a roaring flame dragon and a huge blue water sword, which fiercely swept towards Jason's location. Boom! Deafening roars resounded throughout the world. In order to kill Jason, the two launched the most violent attack in an instant, because they knew that as long as they killed Jason, when the Atkinson Tower Master freed his hand, their side would be able to take the initiative on the battlefield. In everyone's shocked and angry gazes, a terrifying flame dragon exuding endless aura of destruction, and a water knife that cut a torrent of white lines out of the void, came to Jason in an instant. Two terrifying attacks. The next moment is to completely kill Jason. Humph, you're looking for death. Faced with the two attacks, Jason's face was filled with cold expressions, and the black heavy sword in his hand was aimed at the two men's attacks and struck out fiercely. Boom! Under Jason's swing, the black heavy sword suddenly exuded a pressure that destroyed the world and destroyed the earth. The shadow of the war behind Jason stared at him even more. Intent filled the whole world. Amidst the rumbling roar, the black ape suddenly shot out a sword shadow that soared into the sky. This sword shadow rose in the wind and quickly turned into a mountain of swords, as if it rushed out from the ancient times and directly impacted on top of the flame dragon and the huge blue water sword. Boom! Like thunder exploding, the huge water sword released by Boulder first collided with the black heavy sword in Jason's hand. A deafening roar sounded. The water sword, filled with all of Boulder's spiritual power, was in front of Jason's attack. As if the egg hit a stone, completely shattered, and instantly turned into water vapor all over the sky, dissipating in the wind. The next moment, the black heavy sword in Jason's hand had already landed on the flame dragon. Crack! The 20 elements of the fire spirit collapsed, and the sound of breaking bamboo resounded. The body of the destruction flame dragon, which was condensed into flame crystals, suddenly cracked like fragile glass, and then shattered suddenly. What? How could this Jason be so strong? Westcott and Boulder were shocked. They shouted in disbelief and retreated violently. They never thought that they had been with each other before. The master of Atkinson Tower met, and Jason, who was repulsed, could easily break through the strongest attacks of the two of them. You know, even the master of Bispham Tower, who had previously advanced to the 9th level, was not as shocked as Jason at this moment. You want to sneak attack me? You're just looking for death. Jason sneered, his eyes as cold as ice, and the black épée in his hand slashed directly at the two people who were retreating quickly without stopping. Ah! Scott and Boulder both shouted at the same time, raising their weapons high. Boom! The thunder shook, and the anger rushed into the sky. Westcott and Boulder howled in pain at the same time. The robes on their bodies were instantly broken, and blood was splattered everywhere on their bodies. Their whole bodies were like rag bags. Throwing it away, blood surged from the mouth. Whoosh! Jason's body swayed, and he followed closely, intending to kill the two of them completely. The god of death has come to hell. Harvest of life. At this moment, Atkinson suddenly arrived. Countless black mist was sprayed out from his body, like the painful hell of ghosts from the 9 nether hells. Instantly turned the entire battlefield into a hell on earth. At the same time, the shadow of the god of death in a black cloak behind Atkinson became clearer. The tall black shadow raised its head and stared at Jason. Suddenly, Jason seemed to he fell into the ice cave and felt a complete chill all over his body, as if the cold blade of death had quietly touched his neck and was about to take away his life. You bastard, die. Guan Jinsen's face was ferocious, with a black air lingering on his face. The strength in his body reached its extreme. He raised the black sickle high in his hand, and overlapped with the shadow of the sickle in the hand of the death god. Jason chopped it off hard. At this moment, the hair on Jason's body stood upright, arousing countless goosebumps. A sense of extreme danger of death rising in his mind without warning. Not good. Jason didn't care about killing the two boulders. All the strange black power in his body suddenly rioted, and the three battle tactics of spiritual god art, god of war art and god of destruction killing art were running at the same time. Boom! A black shadow appeared behind Jason again, standing side by side with the shadow of the god of war, making Jason's momentum reach the extreme. The powers of the god of war and the god of killing were completely combined at this moment. One had an invincible fighting spirit, swept across the sky, and was so angry, unrivaled pressure. The god-destroying technique of killing the god comes to the world. The two god-level techniques were completely integrated, and Jason roared, his eyes like lightning, bursting with light, and an extremely terrifying power surged out of Jason's body. The black sword shadow and the black sickle shadow collided heavily in the void at the next moment. Boom! An uncontrollable, earth-shaking explosion suddenly exploded in the void. After the loud noise, there was a collision of energy that erupted like a volcano. The destructive energy spread out from the void. The empty space was rippled at this moment. Even the illusory air was affected by the powerful force. The energy collision caused some blurring and distortion. At the center of the explosion, the void was constantly trembling, like boiling water, and countless soap bubbles kept popping up. This extremely solid void on the battlefield of the gods was almost shattered, and the rumbling roars continued to resound, and the heaven and earth were no longer there. Completely eclipsed. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the distance, everyone who was still fighting earlier retreated in fear, fearing that they would be swallowed up by this terrible force. They looked at the huge explosion in the sky in shock, with pale faces. This is so terrifying. With such terrifying power, if we were hit, we would be dead in an instant. When did this Jason become so powerful? It's scary, it's really horrible. In the distance, McGrady and the others stopped fighting, looking at the place where Jason and Atkinson were fighting in horror and worry, their faces pale. With their strength, they can naturally feel the horror of the previous battle between the two sides. The power that destroyed the world only spread far away, which caused the spiritual power in their bodies to become unstable, their energy and blood surged, and they almost spit out a mouthful of blood. If they are directly swept away, with their strength, they will undoubtedly turn into red powder, and nothing will be left. Among the other 7 strong men present, perhaps only the master of Bispham Tower, a 9th-level peak Holy Spirit master, had a chance to survive such a terrifying attack. For a moment, the entire safe area was silent. Everyone stopped and looked at the location of the explosion in shock. The terrifying explosion slowly dissipated, the boundless smoke gradually receded, and in everyone's eyes, 2 figures slowly appeared. These 2 people were facing each other, coldly, in the void. They were Jason and Atkinson. Their bodies were all in a mess, stained with blood, and there was blood hanging from the corners of their mouths. There was almost no intact place on their bodies. It was obvious that they had been killed before. In the battle, they all suffered serious injuries. How could you block this move of mine? Atkinson's figure was swaying in the void, his eyes filled with disbelief. The previous blow was his strongest attack, and it hit half of his foot. After stepping out of the 9th-level peak and about to become a demigod, even a 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master would be killed and perish. However, Jason's performance at this moment completely shocked him. On the other side of the battlefield, Jason's eyes were cold, and he was also surprised by Atkinson's strength. The combination of the 2 most powerful attacks of War God Possession and Death God Reincarnation failed to kill Atkinson, which made Jason's heart sink, but he did not panic at all. On today's battlefield, he and Atkinson are evenly matched, and McGrady, Leona, Streer, and Cumberbatch are evenly matched, but the master of Bispham Tower is absolutely unbeatable against the seriously injured Westcott and Boulder. They have all the advantages. Once Bispham kills 2 people, he can quickly join the battle on his or McGrady's side. In this way, his side's advantage will become bigger and bigger, and he is destined to win this battle. Victory. In the void, inadvertently, several members of the 2 sides who were separated gradually moved closer together. Master Atkinson Tower, what should we do now? Westcott and Bold approached Atkinson and asked worriedly. No one is an idiot. What Jason can see, Atkinson and the others can naturally see, especially Westcott and Boulder. They were seriously injured by Jason, and their current strength is not enough. Half of them in their heyday, once they started fighting, they would probably be quickly killed by the master of Bispham Tower. For the first time, the 2 of them felt panicked. They were casual cultivators hiding in various parts of the continent. The reason why they joined forces with Atkinson Tower Master and the others was just because of their past friendships and the identity of Atkinson Tower Master as the first person on the mainland. And more importantly, they have completely different attributes from Atkinson Tower Master and others. Once they obtain the God's shards, they will not cause competition if they are distributed according to their own attributes, so they are united. But at this moment they felt a little regretful because they had united with Atkinson Tower Master and the others and offended Jason and others. What should I do? Atkinson looked at Jason and the others opposite, his eyes extremely cold, with a hint of fear and anger. Under the current situation, if he orders a retreat, with Jason and his team's strength, although they may be able to kill 2 people, Atkinson will definitely be able to escape, but in this way, he will miss the final opportunity to kill Jason. Chances are, with Jason's growth rate and the gains from this Tianju eruption, the next time the 2 sides meet again, he may not even be able to defeat Bispham. No, we must not escape. Jason and Bispham, today, I must kill them, otherwise, the consequences will be disastrous. Since this made Atkinson feel cruel, a plan that was originally hesitant in his heart, at this moment, he finally made up his mind. Scott, Boulder, you 2 don't have to worry, this Jason is dead today. A strange look suddenly flashed in Atkinson's hateful eyes, and he shouted coldly. Master Atkinson Tower, do you have anything else to do? Westcott and Boulder felt Atkinson's confidence, and their faces suddenly revealed surprised. He spoke excitedly, but before they could finish their words, pfft. Atkinson's face suddenly became extremely ferocious, and he thrust out his hands like lightning, and penetrated the unsuspecting Weiss fiercely. In the chests of Kurt and Boulder, their hands exerted force and instantly crushed their hearts. Atkinson's move immediately shocked everyone present. Atkinson, you, why did Westcott and Boulder's eyes widen with disbelief in their eyes? The shadow of death instantly enveloped them, and they felt the pain in their bodies. The power was passing by rapidly, and the body could no longer generate any strength. Their vision went dark, and they fell completely into boundless darkness. Even until their death, they did not understand why the master of Atkinson Tower would treat them in such a situation. Take action. Why? If I kill you, I will have strength. Atkinson made a ferocious cry, his face distorted, and instantly became extremely terrifying, and his eyes suddenly turned into pitch black at the next moment. Death seizes the body ***. Chi-chi. On his hands, countless black lines quickly appeared on Westcott and Boulder's bodies. Wherever these lines passed, their bodies became completely black, and bursts of black mist rose from their bodies. It arose and finally penetrated into Atkinson's body. In Jason's perception, Atkinson's body felt like a terrifying wild beast was awakening, and his whole person was filled with the smell of evil, that kind of terrifying power. Jason's whole body shuddered under this breath. Because of absorbing the power from the 2 people, Atkinson's skin cracked, and strange black blood like ink oozed out. No, we can't let him absorb it. The power of these 2 people. That kind of terrifying and evil aura made Jason extremely vigilant. He roared and turned into a black lightning and rushed towards Atkinson. He wants to stop Atkinson's move. Haha, it's useless, just die. What Jason didn't expect was that in an instant, Westcott and Bold turned into two black puffs of smoke and completely disappeared into Atkinson's body. In his body, at this moment, Atkinson seemed to have transformed into a demon coming out of hell. His whole body was filled with the aura of evil, violence, killing, and death, and he slashed hard at Jason. Boom! An extremely violent and evil aura rushed into Jason's mind, and at the same time, a terrifying force, like a mountain torrent bursting its banks, rushed into Jason's body with wolf roots. Bang! Jason's body flew forward at high speed, and blood spurted out from his mouth. Bang! With a heavy blow, Jason was thrown away suddenly under Atkinson's attack, with blood splattering from his mouth. Jason! Bispham and the others were shocked, and they let out worried shouts. In today's battlefield, Jason is the absolute main force. Only he can block Atkinson and kill Atkinson. Others, even Bispham, are no match for Atkinson. Once Jason can't hold on, the advantage Bispham and the others had at the beginning would collapse and be completely gone. Cough. Jason groaned in the void, stopped suddenly, and looked at Atkinson with solemn eyes. In Jason's perception, Atkinson was exuding an extremely strong aura of evil at this moment. The whole person seemed to have entered an extremely strange state, as if he had transformed into a devil from hell, absorbing Westcott and Bull. After the two of them, the potential in the body was completely stimulated, and the aura emitted increased several times in a short period of time, and it was so evil. Death seizes body ****. What kind of magical skill is this? It's really scary. Jason said solemnly. Atkinson's power at this moment was far beyond Jason's expectation. Of course, with the strength of Jason's 9th level elixir master, it can be seen that this death body seizing weapon is actually similar to the evil spirit forbidden technique. Once used, it will cause harm to the body of the spiritual master. Cause some kind of irreparable huge damage, which is more terrible than the impact of the spiritual forbidden technique. Otherwise, Atkinson would not have failed to use it in previous battles. Compared with the spiritual forbidden technique, this death-seizing body obviously more powerful. Who? Atkinson hit the target without any pause, and flew towards Jason fiercely. His figure instantly turned into a black afterimage, and because of the high-speed flying, it even brought bursts of sonic booms, generating a shock wave. Boom! Countless strange black air currents lingered on the black scythe, and it hit Jason's head directly. The god of death is coming to the world, open it. Jason roared, and the spiritual power in his body was running wildly. With the god of war suspended, he used the god of death to come to the world again. Boom! A deafening roar resounded, and Atkinson's body shook violently in the void. His body broke, and the strange black blood that flowed was scattered and sprayed out. However, Jason was knocked away heavily again. Pfft! Jason coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and blood splattered everywhere on his body. The strange power filled with a strong evil aura rushed into his body, destroying all the meridians in his body. It was a tear, and the body was severely damaged again. Haha, Jason, I admit that you are very strong and you are the most talented person I have ever seen in Atkinson. Unfortunately, you are destined to die here today. Atkinson showed his dark teeth and laughed ferociously. He made a sound, and then charged at Jason again. Die! Atkinson roared crazily, his face was shrouded in countless dark mist, his eyes were evil, black pus flowed out from all parts of his body, he made a corrosive sound, and bursts of black smoke came out. Although his strength has skyrocketed, it is clear that his entire body has lost its original vitality, as if he has become a zombie. The black scythe containing terrifying spiritual power came down hard on Jason's head, and countless black threads exploded into the void, shooting in all directions, covering every part of Jason's body. The next moment, Jason would be killed. Cut it thoroughly. Open it. Jason's eyes widened in anger, the 4 spiritual beads in his body were spinning crazily, and the black heavy sword was blocked in front of him. But it was useless. Under Atkinson's attack, Jason fell into the void again, his face turned pale, his body collapsed, and he coughed up blood in his mouth. Die. Atkinson's eyes were cold and fierce, full of death energy. The black sickle turned into a black ball, squeezing the surrounding air and triggering a powerful hurricane or tornado, which pressed towards Jason. There is a time limit for his death grabbing ****. Once the time is up, before he has killed Jason and is freed from this state, his body will not be able to withstand the force and explode. Therefore, he urgently needed to kill Jason in a short time. The shorter the time, the less permanent damage he would suffer to his body. In Atkinson's ferocious gaze, the black storm was about to swallow Jason whole in the next moment. The exclamation of the god of life, the hymn of life. At this moment, a cold voice like judgment sounded between heaven and earth, and a strong breath of life suddenly burst out from the life staff in Bisfamu Hujong, turning into a streak of cyan light collided with Atkinson's attack. It was Bisfam who saw Jason in crisis, not far away, and rushed over. Boom! Two powerful attack vessels collided, and a terrifying explosion sounded in the world. The 20 elements of Yuan Jia's spirit filled everything, covering up the brilliance of the sun. In the huge roar, Bisfam's the body was thrown heavily. The blood spurted out wildly, and the energy of life was like a punctured balloon. A large amount of it passed away, and his originally rosy face became old again. However, Atkinson's previous attack was also resisted. Old man, don't be anxious, it will be your turn soon. When I kill this Jason, I will immediately arrange for you two to meet on the Huangquan Road. Atkinson looked at the seriously injured Bisfam coldly, and said ferociously, make a sound. The next moment, Atkinson attacked Jason again. Boom! 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 The deafening roar resounded throughout the world, and in an instant, Atkinson launched a fierce attack on Jason like a violent storm. Under Atkinson's crazy attack, Jason retreated continuously. The 4 spiritual beads in his body were running wildly. He used the spiritual god art, the war god art, and the god-destroying killing art with all his strength, but to no avail. He could only struggle to hold on. Everywhere in his body was covered, puffs of blood burst out, the injuries on his body continued to worsen, and he might die at any time. What should I do? Jason's face turned red and he struggled to hold on, constantly thinking of ways in his heart. After performing the death-seizing body attack, Atkinson is now as strong as a demigod-level strongman. This can be seen from the fact that he seriously injured the master of Bisfam Tower with one move. Although Jason's strength is strong, but can only be equivalent to a strong person at the top of the 9th level. Compared with a demigod-strong person, there is still a lot of gap. In fact, if it weren't for Jason's physical strength and soul strength that have reached the peak of the 9th level, coupled with the mysterious effects of the 4 spiritual beads, and the power of the 3 divine arts, the spirit god art, the god of war art, and the god of destruction killing art, it would have been an ordinary 9th level peak Holy Spirit Master would have been killed by Atkinson with a few moves. However, even so, Jason could no longer hold on for long at this moment. His body had already begun to collapse because it could not withstand the powerful impact. I am afraid that he would completely fall before long. If it weren't for this battlefield of the gods, I could have completely relied on the god's destruction formation to trap Atkinson and then kill him, but like Jason thought about multiple methods in a row, but they were all rejected, and the most reliable one was what he wanted to do was to use the god-level formation, the great formation of divine destruction, that he had obtained in the God's Destruction Valley on the Tianhai continent. The God-destroying formation is a god-level formation that can kill god-level powerful men. Although it is not intact, under Jason's control, there is still no problem in killing Atkinson. Unfortunately, in this battlefield of gods, the divine destruction formation cannot be used at all. In fact, even if it can be used, setting up a god-level formation will take time, and obviously, Atkinson will not give Jason this time at all. Huh? During the frantic resistance, Jason's situation became more and more critical. Just when Jason was about to be completely unable to bear it, suddenly, Jason saw the Earth Law Divine Chain in the gray fog area not far away. Maybe a thought suddenly appeared in Jason's mind, causing Jason's heart to feel a little rippled. Boom! There was another fierce attack. Jason's robe was completely shattered, and his whole body was thrown towards the gray fog area like a rag bag. Jason! Under the horrified eyes of Bispham and others, Jason flew directly into the gray fog area. Huh! Atkinson's movement that was about to rush in suddenly stopped. Although the area Jason was flying to was quite empty and there was not much gray fog, there was still some gray fog staying in the direction where he was retreating. Damn it, with how powerful this gray mist is, if Jason touches any of it, he will be instantly annihilated into nothingness by this gray mist. Haha, die. Atkinson stayed outside the gray fog area, looking at Jason not far away with crazy eyes. He is waiting for Jason's fall. As soon as Jason falls, he will turn his attention to Bispham and others who have been seriously injured. Under everyone's nervous gazes, Jason flew into the depths of the gray fog area. Get out of my way. Jason looked crazy as he was retreating rapidly, and the strange black power in his body was flowing crazily. The powerful spiritual consciousness was like a tide, entangling the few connections between himself and the Earth Law Divine Chain. There was a gray mist, and I tried my best to move the gray mist away. However, Jason flew back too fast, and the black mist moved too hard. Like a bolt of lightning, Jason crashed directly into it. No, Bispham and the others widened their eyes in horror. Ah! Jason let out a shocking roar. At the moment when he was about to hit the gray fog, he finally moved the gray fog away from its retreating path. His broken clothes almost flew past the gray fog. After dodging the first gray mist, Jason also narrowly avoided the remaining 2 gray mists. Jason instantly came to the Law God Chain with 3 Earth-type God Law fragments. He grabbed the Earth Law Divine Chain in his hand. He seemed to be repelled by Atkinson before, but he had actually already calculated his retreat route in the gray fog area. Only with preparation in his mind could he seize the opportunity. Give it to me. Jason yelled loudly, and in the eyes of everyone in disbelief, he drove the fragment of the Earth God Code into his body. This is the only chance. Boom. The Earth Law Divine Chain had just been penetrated into Jason's body, and the strange black power in Jason's body suddenly started to riot. Wow. A large amount of black weird power, like a flood that broke a bank, completely submerged the law chain with 3 Earth-type divine law fragments together. Refine it for me. Jason roared crazily in his heart, his eyes were red, and he tried his best to control the strange black power in his body, trying to refine the 3 Earth element fragments in the shortest possible time. Now the power of the 5 elements in Jason's body, except for the Earth element, the other 4 elements have absorbed the fragments of the gods and have been greatly improved. It can be said that the other 4 attributes in Jason's body have reached a peak at this moment. As long as he absorbs another fragment of the Earth element and cultivates the attributes of the Earth element to the extreme, he will most likely break through the 9th level intermediate level and advance to the 9th level high level. In such a crisis, I am afraid that this has already happened. This is the only chance for a comeback. You must not fail. Jason roared in his heart, frantically refining the fragments of the Earth element. Chi-chi. Under the fierce erosion of the black weird power, the 3 fragments of the Earth element in Jason's body were like white snow under the sun, melting and shrinking rapidly. A large number of mysterious Earth laws, it was as if the tide had broken the seal and poured into every part of Jason's body. When Jason first got the Water-type Gods code fragment on the battlefield of the gods, it took more than half an hour to refine the Water-type Gods code fragment, but as Jason continued to obtain the Gods code fragments, Jason's time to refine the fragments of the Gods law is drastically reduced every time, but now in such a critical situation, Jason has to go faster, faster, faster. The 3 fragments of the Earth Gods law continued to shrink under Jason's full refining. It would not take more than a quarter of an hour at most before they would be completely refined. For ordinary spiritual masters, this is a miracle, but here in the moment of crisis, neither Jason nor Bispham could hold on for so long. What is Jason doing? Is he trying to absorb the fragments of the Earth God rule to increase his strength? Seeing Jason's actions, everyone present was stunned, and Atkinson laughed ferociously. Any fragment of the divine law will take dozens of days or even months to refine. Even a 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master is the same. This broken law chain with 3 Earth-type divine law fragments, normally 9, it takes at least half a year for a peak-level Holy Spirit Master to completely refine the pair, which is already extremely fast. Does Jason think that putting this Earth law divine chain into his body can increase his strength? It's simply that's ridiculous. If you give him a few months, it may not be impossible to improve his strength, but now Atkinson's eyes were full of bloodthirsty killing intent, and the black scythe in his hand was raised high. The death scythe destroys every blow. Wow! A black sword light that was more than 10 feet long suddenly appeared from the void and shot toward Jie Jiao. The terrifying spiritual power shocked the 9 heavens and the earth. The powerful sword light emitted a black light from the void. The mountain-like terrifying sword light instantly enveloped Jason's body. The strong sword light was about to cut Jason into pieces. 2 halves. Faster, faster, faster. Faced with Atkinson's attack, Jason almost went crazy in the gray fog area, desperately refining the fragments of the earth element. However, with his ability to refine the earth element, obviously, no matter how fast the Shenzhen fragments are, they cannot be faster than the speed of the terrifying sword light. Is it too late? Jason is desperate. With his current physical condition, he can no longer block Atkinson's terrifying attacks. No, I'm not willing to give in. Transform me. The next moment, Jason let out a heart-rending roar in his heart, his eyes turned red, and he was frantically refining the Earth Law divine chain. Buzz. At this moment, Jason's obsession seemed to be sensed. The Earth Spirit beads in Jason's mind began to spin rapidly. At the same time, a mysterious force penetrated into the fragments of the Earth system's divine rules. Enter. Pung. 3 fragments of the Earth element God's law, shrunk by a quarter, exploded suddenly and turned into countless pieces of powder. These pieces of powder quickly turned into nothingness. Finally, they turned into countless Earth element laws and mysteries, and merged into them. In Jason's body, at the same time, 3 strange Earth runes also entered the Earth Spirit beads in an instant. Buzz. 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 At the moment when the 3 Earth runes were absorbed by the Earth Spirit beads, the other 3 Spirit beads in Jason's mind began to spin crazily. The 5 elements of spiritual power in Jason's body boiled crazily at this moment. Getting up, countless mysterious 5 elements law runes appeared, emitting a grand sound. Boom! In everyone's shocked eyes, thunder resounded throughout the world, and a dazzling divine light erupted from the surface of Jason's body. At the same time, an irresistible terrifying pressure fell from the sky in an instant and descended on the world. The extremely powerful 5-element power suddenly burst out from Jason's body, and the 5-color divine light bloomed on Jason's body. At this moment, Jason seemed to be transformed into a 5-color god. The terrifying power made everyone they were all trembling. At the same time, Atkinson Tower Master's powerful attack had already arrived in front of Jason. Boom! A wave of overwhelming spiritual power, like a wave soaring into the sky, spread out in all directions with Jason's body as the center, breaking through Atkinson's attack instantly. At this moment, the entire gray fog area instantly changed. It has become the ocean of the 5 elements law. What's the matter with Mother? What happened? Safe area. This sudden scene shocked Atkinson, Bispham and others. The eyes of Atkinson and others showed panic and were caught off guard. Bispham and the others hated what showed in his eyes was surprise and excitement. No matter what happened to Jason at this moment, for them in the desperate situation at this moment, the situation could not be worse. Die. Facing this sudden situation, Atkinson's eyes suddenly turned ferocious, he roared, and launched repeated attacks on Jason. At this critical moment, he did not allow any change in the situation. Boom. 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 A large number of terrifying attacks swept towards Jason's location. However, under the impact of the 5-color divine light blooming on Jason's body, these attacks were all like chickens and dogs. Generally, it collapses in an instant. Throughout the battlefield of the gods, countless spiritual elements raged, and rivers of 5-color elemental laws transformed into countless 5-color rays of light flowing between the sky and the earth. Finally, a huge 5-color vortex was formed, which crazily poured into the people in the middle of the 5-color vortex. Inside Jason. The whole process happened quickly. It ended quickly, and in an instant the astonishing scene in the sky disappeared in an instant, and all merged into Jason's body. Aha! In everyone's shocked eyes, Jason, who was in the center of the 5-color aurora, suddenly opened his eyes, and shot out 2 5-color divine rainbows. Countless 5-element laws were mysterious, like chains, connected indirectly between heaven and earth. Together. An indescribable terrifying pressure erupted from Jason's body like a tsunami. At this critical moment, after absorbing the earth law divine chain, Jason's 5 elements law finally reached perfection and was promoted to the 9th level of advanced Holy Spirit Master. The torrent of 5-color unprimed laws poured into Jason's body like painful waves. At this moment, every cell in Jason's body exuded a joyful emotion, as if he had been reborn. Feeling refreshed, every cell and every particle is jumping for joy. Under the torrent of these 5-color elemental laws, the wounds on Jason, who was originally seriously injured, are quickly fused and healed. Smooth, as if it had never been injured. Buzz. In Jason's mind, the 4 spiritual beads were spinning. In the spiritual sea, a large number of 5-color water flows emitted misty light, constantly rolling and surging, representing the mystery of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Is this the 9th level high-level Holy Spirit Master? Feeling the strong elemental power in his body and everything around him becoming clear, Jason murmured in his mouth and clenched his fists tightly. After absorbing the fire law divine chain, Jason's spiritual consciousness skyrocketed from tens of meters to thousands of meters. Later, as Jason continued to absorb the God's law fragments of various attributes, before he was promoted, Jason's spiritual consciousness has surpassed the distance of 1,000 meters. However, now, after being promoted to the 9th level of advanced Holy Spirit Master, Jason's spiritual consciousness can easily spread to tens of thousands of meters away, and the perception distance of spiritual consciousness has increased almost 10 times. This is not what excites Jason the most. The biggest difference between a 9th level high-level Holy Spirit Master and an ordinary Holy Spirit Master is the mastery of the law of the void and the ability to travel through the void. In the past, Jason had long been able to break through the stern continent. The void travels through the void, but it only uses powerful power to blast through the void, rather than completely mastering the laws of the void. But now, in the process of advancing to the 9th level advanced Holy Spirit Master, a large number of void laws have been integrated into Jason's body along with the 5 elements laws, giving Jason a complete understanding of the void, which is a feeling of complete control. This Jason has actually advanced to the 9th level of advanced Holy Spirit Master at this time? In the safe area, Master Atkinson, who was surrounded by black mist, looked at Jason and spoke in disbelief. Immediately, he said with a slight, the shocked face suddenly became extremely ferocious. So what if you have been promoted to the 9th level of Senior Holy Spirit Master? On my behalf, Atkinson, do you still want to stand up and die? Atkinson roared like a wild beast, and the monstrous black mist flowed from his body. With an eruption, the black scythe in his hand was aimed at Jason's location and struck down hard. Destroy one by one with the death scythe. Boom! The countless black ons on the black scythe exuding a strange mist surged, turning into a black blade that connected the sky and the earth, and flew toward Jason like lightning, with a length of more than 10 feet. On the sword light, black mist lingered. Wherever it went, ripples appeared in the void of the battlefield of the gods. Terrible spiritual power vibrated. The extremely terrifying coercion instantly enveloped Jason in the face of that powerful force. Jason's eyes were cold and emotionless. Boom! A terrifying force erupted from Jason's body like a volcano erupting. The god of war's secret art was running rapidly. Under the possession of the god of war, Jason's black épée lifted up like lightning and aimed at the arrow that was shooting out in front of him. The black sword light slashed hard with the sword. Boom! The black heavy sword in Jason's hand instantly turned into a black angry dragon, roaring, and collided heavily with the black sword light struck by Atkinson. Crack! In everyone's shocked eyes, countless cracks suddenly appeared on the black sword light that Atkinson attacked. Jason's body suddenly rushed forward, and the sound of breaking bamboos resounded. The black sword light that was 10 feet long could not withstand such terrifying power, and exploded in the next moment. An invisible spiritual power penetrated the void and struck Atkinson's body. What? How did Jason's strength improve so much? Atkinson's body shook violently, his expression full of shock. A mouthful of black blood spurted out. Atkinson, today is your Memorial Day next year. A voice as cold as a god resounded throughout the world. Jason slashed away Atkinson's attack with a sword. His body suddenly flashed and he rushed through the grey mist passage. In an instant, arriving in front of Atkinson, the black heavy sword in his hand suddenly transformed into countless sword shadows. Boom! Boom! Bye! The next moment, Yuan Shu's black sword marks suddenly appeared in the void. Each of these sword marks was as sharp as a mountain, and finally formed a huge sword array, rumbling towards Ai Jin. Countless black sword marks roared in the void, collided, merged with each other, and finally merged into one, slashing down on Atkinson's head. Open it! Atkinson's eyes were crazy and he was roaring. As he roared, the shadow of the god of death behind him stared even harder, and a breath of death enveloped the entire world, covering the world. Countless strange powers of death were applied to the black scythe in Atkinson's hand, and then slashed at the black sword marks made by Jason. Bang! A dull sound resounded throughout the world, and black blood spurted out from Atkinson's mouth. Like a demon, his body covered with black lines and blood exploded, and countless black blood spurted, spreading wings and uranium seals in all directions. Atkinson's whole body fell heavily to the ground in the safe area. An indescribable terrifying shock wave spread, and the entire earth sank under Atkinson's impact. On the battlefield of the gods, countless black rocks cracked and shot out from the ground. The ground in the entire safe area was filled with Atkinson's shock. With the location as the center, a large area of the ground within a radius of several miles sank. What? How could this happen? Strayer and Cumberbatch, who were still fighting hard with McGrady and the others because of Atkinson's increased strength, were stunned. They stared dumbly at everything in front of them. An unspeakable fear rose from the bottom of their hearts and filled their hearts. The two looked at each other in the void. Whoosh! Whoosh! It shot towards the distant sky, trying to escape from this place. Although Atkinson has not been killed yet, with the current situation, even an idiot can clearly see that from the moment Jason advanced to the 9th level of Advanced Holy Spirit Master, Atkinson was finished, and if he stayed, he would only die. Seeing the two people's actions, Atkinson, who had just struggled to rush out underground, roared angrily. His figure suddenly grew. It actually exploded towards where the two of them were, but before he could fly very far, he was quickly stopped by Jason. Your opponent is me. Jason sneered and slashed with his sword again. At the same time, Strayer and Cumberbatch, not far away, were also intercepted by McGrady and Leona. Come down. Want an alliance? You have to ask us first whether we agree or not. My Jean, Grady, and Leona snorted at the same time. They waved the blade of destiny and the staff of light in succession, and in the void, there was a long river of destiny filled with the power of destiny. Appeared and enveloped the two of them. Damn it, get out of my way. Strier and Cumberbatch roared at the same time. One of the ultimate mysteries of the gold system, the Infinity Sword. The axe of the earth destroys the world one by one. In the roar, two powerful attacks that destroyed the world were aimed at McGrady's location and swept away. They knew that at this moment, there was no way. We can no longer fight for a long time. We must break through the siege as quickly as possible in order to have a chance of survival. The blade of destiny controls destiny one by one. Sigh of the Dawn Goddess. But how could McGrady and Leona give each other this opportunity, and they also launched the strongest attacks. Boom! A huge roar resounded throughout the world, and the four people retreated violently at the same time. Life watch. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. An ancient, vicissitudes of power suddenly appeared in the void and blasted directly at Strier and Cumberbatch. It was the master of Bispham Tower who had been seriously injured under Atkinson's attack and had now recovered slightly. Ah! Strier and Cumberbatch's faces were filled with shock and anger. They had just been repelled by McGrady and Leona. They ignored the surging spiritual power in their bodies and hurriedly rushed out at the critical moment. Hold the weapon in front of your face. Pung! The cyan rainbow light containing the unique power of life swept directly on the two people's weapons, followed their weapons, and instantly entered their bodies. Amid the roar, Strier and Cumberbatch stepped back heavily, groaning and spitting out a mouthful of blood. However, before the two of them could recover, McGrady and Leona were attacked again. Bang! Bang! At this time, the two of them were directly thrown away, their robes were shattered, and they were vomiting blood in the void. On the other side of the battlefield, under Jason's attack, black pieces of body continued to fall from the Atkinson Tower Master, and black blood spurted out. Ah, I'm not willing to give in, I'm not willing to give in. Atkinson roared repeatedly, trying to break out of Jason's encirclement, but to no avail. Jason, who had been promoted to the 9th level of Advanced Holy Spirit Master, completely suppressed him. Under Jason's suppression, he had no resistance at all. And as time went by, the power he gained from taking away Westcott and Boulder was now causing strong backlash, making him suffer terribly and could collapse at any time. I thought that Atkinson's great reputation would fall at the hands of Jason. In this case, Atkinson was struggling to resist, and his bloodthirsty eyes suddenly fell on Strier, Cumberbatch and others not far away. On his body, a trace of fierceness flashed in his eyes. Ah! He fought hard to get seriously injured and blocked Jason's attack with a fierce blow. At the same time, his whole body turned into a black stream of light and rushed towards Strill and others like lightning. Death's body seizing is a strange side effect. The spiritual skill is to absorb the life source and death energy of others to stimulate one's own strength in a short period of time. However, with Atkinson's 9th level peak strength, absorbing 2 high-level Holy Spirit Masters, Westcott and Boulder, is already the limit. If it is absorbed again, Atkinson's body cannot withstand such a powerful force. Even if it succeeds, once the battle is over, he will definitely win. But at this time Atkinson can no longer control so much, knowing that he is dead. He, desperate to die, wanted to kill Jason. Atkinson, don't think I don't know what you want to do. Do you think I will give you this chance? However, just as Atkinson flew out, a cold voice came into his ears. Immediately, a terrifying pressure like a god coming to the world instantly enveloped his body. This wind hard Atkinson, turning around in horror, Atkinson saw 2 tall shadows towering up from behind Jason. Jason's cold eyes stared at him, making Atkinson instantly frightened. The god of war technique, the god of war, is possessed. The god-destroying technique, the killing god, comes to the world. Jason held a black heavy sword, like a god standing proudly in the world, and struck Atkinson hard with one sword. No. Atkinson's eyes suddenly widened. The next moment, a stream of black particles burst out from the black heavy sword. The void swelled like a lake. The stream of black particles, containing terrifying spiritual power, was completely destroyed in the next moment. Engulfed Atkinson. Wow. In the black particle flow, Atkinson's body melted quickly. Ah, I'm going to die. In that case, let's die together, haha, no one can survive. Atkinson, with only half of his body left in the black particle flow, roared crazily. The god of death disintegrates ***. As Atkinson roared, a terrifying pressure that destroyed the world suddenly burst out from Atkinson's body. In Jason's eyes, Atkinson's body suddenly swelled. The next moment, there was a sudden contraction, and a strong sense of crisis, like the gaze of a poisonous snake, descended on Jason's mind, making Jason's hair stand on end and his body covered with dense goosebumps. No, Bispham, McGrady, Leona, come in. Jason was shocked in his heart. A blue light burst out from the center of his eyebrows. It rose up in the wind and turned into a small tower as tall as one person. A blue rainbow suddenly spewed out from the bottom of the small tower and washed directly over Bispham. The 3 people of Bispham were included in them. Under the bombardment of Bispham and the others, Streer and Cumberbatch, who were covered with bruises and were about to die, opened their eyes in horror, and fled quickly with fear in their eyes. Boom! The next moment, a huge explosion sound, like the world collapsing, exploded in the safe area of the gray fog area. After the loud noise, a huge black mushroom cloud rose instantly in this safe area. The energy collision, like a volcanic eruption, spread out from the void. The empty space was filled with ripples at this moment. Even the illusory air was blurred and distorted by the powerful energy collision. The monstrous black spiritual power flooded the entire area, completely engulfing Jason, Ares Tower, Streer, and Cumberbatch. In the gray mist area of the battlefield of the gods, all the powerful spiritual beasts and the strong men attracted by the eruption of the Tianzhu were all stunned at this moment. Who? Not far from the eruption of the Tianzhu, a big man in blue armor flew quickly towards Jason, with a terrifying breath of ice gushing from his body. Previously, a pillar of heaven erupted in that place, and it was accompanied by a strong aura of divinity. Obviously, many fragments of the god were born. In this gray fog area, every time the pillar of heaven erupts, there will be huge gains, but most of the Tianzhu eruptions are in the gray fog area. The previous one was obviously close to the safe area, which is extremely rare. Unfortunately, I am too far away. It's really abominable, the big man in blue armor said with annoyance in his eyes. He flew quickly. This person is none other than the Arctic Icefield strongman Hyams, one of the 3 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Masters who participated in the god's birthday. Previously, after feeling the aura erupting from the Tianzhu from a distance, he flew towards the target at the fastest speed. Usually a powerful sky pillar erupts, with bright light reaching straight to the heaven and earth. The astonishing aura and pressure can cover almost half of the gray fog area, so Hyams on the other side can also feel it. Unfortunately, in this battlefield of the gods, no one can travel through the void, not even the 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master. Therefore, after flying for so long, Hyams is still some distance away from where the pillar erupts. I feel that from the place where the pillar erupted before, there has been faintly powerful spiritual energy fluctuations for such a long time. It is obvious that there are strong people fighting. This is fine. If no one fights, those gods will be fragmented. Once it was plundered by someone, I had no clue if I wanted to look for it. Now that there are people fighting, it means that the fragments of the gods have not been completely plundered. Even if they were taken away, they belonged to those strong men who fought. On the body, as long as they don't leave that place, they can get part of it when I arrive. Hyams's cold eyes flew quickly, rushing towards the place where the Tianzhu erupted. Suddenly one by one, boom. A terrible energy wave came from the place where the pillar erupted. Hyams, who was flying quickly, stopped suddenly, raised his head and looked at the blast from the explosion with eyes full of horror. Where? The terrible pressure contained in that explosion actually made him, a 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master, tremble slightly. What an amazing energy fluctuation! Teach at least a 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master a full blow, and even the Holy Spirit Mao, who is at the peak of the 9th level, cannot do this. This power has surpassed the peak of the 9th level. Hames looked at the place where the Tianju erupted with horror in his eyes. He and Atkinson are the only Holy Spirit Masters at the 9th level of the battlefield of the gods. Perhaps the master of the Bispham Tower of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower also has this possibility. Then, who created this terrible power? In other words, it is not the strong men who participated in this god's birthday at all, but the huge spiritual power generated by the battle between the powerful spiritual beasts in the battlefield of the gods. Fluctuation? If that's the case, Hyams's heart sank suddenly, his face was full of solemnity, and his brows were slightly wrinkled. No matter what is going on, I must go and see. The next moment, Hyams's head suddenly raised, his eyes flashing with hatred. Whoosh! Hames' figure instantly turned into a stream of light, rushing towards the location of the explosion. He was so fast that he disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. At the same time, somewhere near or far away from where Jason and the others were fighting, in some distant areas, several strong men who were flying towards the Tianju eruption suddenly stopped and looked at the distant sky in horror. There, a huge mushroom cloud was slowly rising. From there, endless terrifying pressure spread out. The terrifying and powerful spiritual power and pressure made people almost suffocated. What happened there? An old man with a gray beard and a rosy complexion widened his eyes and looked frightened. How powerful is it to be able to cause such terrible consequences? Who and where are they fighting? Several strong men murmured, their eyes dull. The next moment, their eyes were firm, and they swept far away towards the place where the explosion was. The strong men who could come to this battlefield of the gods were all from the mainland. The top figures in the world will naturally not be intimidated by this aura and dare not go forward. In the safe area, terrifying spiritual power surges, a large amount of smoke and dust are scattered everywhere, and the entire area is under the influence of Atkinson's self-destruction, turned into nothingness. Under the ground where Jason and the others were originally located, the entire earth sank hundreds of meters. Within a radius of several thousand meters, all the ground was glazed, and the rocks turned into a black glass-like spar. In the endless smoke and dust, a pagoda flashing with blue light vibrated and flew out. It was the God of War Tower. Wow! From the bottom of the God of War Tower, 3 streams of light jetted out, and the 3 Bispham flew out of it. As soon as the 3 of them appeared in the void, they all spurted out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their faces were pale and full of malaise. Jean Arsenic. Although the tower is an artifact, it cannot completely isolate attacks from the outside world. This is why Jason did not hide in the God of War Tower in the crisis situation before he was promoted to the 9th level of Advanced Holy Spirit Master, because he knew that even if he sacrificed the God of War Tower, hiding among them was of no avail. After the 3 Bispham appeared in the void, they all raised their heads and looked nervously at the center of the explosion. They knew deeply that the strength had almost reached the demigod level. Atkinson, how powerful is the self-destruction? With the strength of the 3 of them, they are still some distance away from Atkinson, and they are still hiding in the God of War Tower. They were injured by the terrible impact, so they were in Atkinson before. How terrible a bombardment would Jason next to him endure? They couldn't even imagine. Under the gazes of the 3 Bispham people, the smoke gradually dispersed in the void, and a figure loomed in the smoke. Jackson. The eyes of the 3 people in Bispham all showed joy and sorrow, and they cried out in surprise. I saw Jason's figure slowly appearing in the sky. His figure was a little embarrassed, and his body was covered with a layer of darkness. The black U armor, however, there is no intact place in this black U armor, it is broken everywhere. Ahem. Jason coughed, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Jason, are you okay? The three men from Bispham quickly flew forward and spoke out with concern and nervousness. I'm okay, are you okay? Jason smiled and shook his head. Although he looked embarrassed, the injuries on his body were not serious. After absorbing the 3 weird earth runes, the earth spirit beads where the black U armor form seemed to have been improved by some kind of leap, and its defensive capabilities were greatly increased. Atkinson self-destructed before he died. Not only did he not kill us, but he killed Strier and Cumberbatch. He really gave them an advantage. Looking at Strier before where he and Cumberbatch were, Jason spoke indifferently. When the Atkinson Tower Master self-destructed, Jason's spiritual consciousness clearly sensed the horror that occurred when the Atkinson Tower Master blew himself up. Under the impact of energy, it instantly turned into nothingness, leaving nothing behind. Okay, let's put away all the fragments of the divine law now. Jason smiled. The power of Atkinson's self-destruction was enough to kill a 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master. Hang was a god suspended around him. However, none of the fragments and the incomplete law divine chain were damaged, and even their positions did not change. Okay. The 3 of Bispham nodded, and the 4 of them immediately came to the grey fog area from the safe area, looking for passages, and prepared to collect all the fragments of the divine laws suspended in the grey fog area. Huh? At this moment, Jason suddenly raised his head and looked not far away. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 streams of light flew over like lightning and stayed in the sky above the safe area. There are so many fragments of the gods. As soon as the 2 figures arrived here, their eyes fell on the fragments of the gods in the grey fog area, with greed in their eyes. Bispham, were you responsible for the previous explosion? These 2 people are none other than Holy Lord Rosamund of the Sky Empire and Lord Danzig of the City of Adventure. Although they are jealous of so many fragments of the god, but the terrifying explosion before still made them quite wary. I wanted to take action, but I was hesitant. Whoosh! Sniff! Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, a sharp sound broke through the air, and 4 more streams of light shot from a distance. These fragments of God's law are incredible. As soon as these 4 streams of light appeared, their eyes fell firmly on the many fragments of God's law in the grey fog area, and their eyes showed ecstasy. Master Bispham Tower, you are well. Jason. These 4 people are Heims from the Arctic Icefield, Supreme Sect Master Bosworth of Ling Tian Sect of Tian High Continent, and 2 people who have been in Endless Land all year round. The strong man cultivating in Hai Huang Island greeted the Bispham people. Bisfarm, there are so many fragments of God's law here, how are you going to distribute them? Seeing Hyams and others, Holy Lord Rosamund of the Sky Empire suddenly felt confident and said loudly. How to distribute them? Jason raised his head coldly and glanced at everyone present. Everyone, these fragments of the god were the first to be found by the 4 of us, so please go find them elsewhere. Just kidding, these fragments of God were obtained by the 4 of them who risked their lives and killed the 5 Atkinsons. Jason claimed that he was not a saint, so naturally he could not share them with others. Your Excellency, isn't this great? There are so many divine fragments here. Although you discovered them first, I don't think the 4 of you can eat them all, right? Lord Danzig of the Adventure City sneered. Road. After saying that, Lord Danzig turned his attention to Hyams and others not far away. What do you mean? 1 chapter, 3 chapters tomorrow. I've been in a bad state lately, so I hope I can get back into shape as soon as possible. Without the appearance of Hyams and the others, Danzig and the others might not have dared to be so presumptuous with Jason and the others. After all, there are 4 people on Jason's side. Although Jason is just a newcomer and can be ignored, McGrady and Leona are both strong men who are not weaker than them, plus Bispham, the elixir master, even the three masters of the tower seemed to have been seriously injured, but Danzig and Rosamund still did not dare to be too tough. But now, the arrival of Hyams and others has made Danzig and the others feel confident. Hyams is a 9th-level Holy Spirit Master at the pinnacle. In terms of strength, he can be said to be the strongest among the people present. In addition, Bosworth from Tion High Continent, as well as Electra and Clarence, for 2 casual cultivators from the Endless Sea, Danzig did not believe that they would not be tempted by the large number of fragments of God's law here. As long as they have the desire to compete in their hearts, everything will be easy to handle. Regardless of whether Bispham and the others are willing or not, they must hand over some fragments of the divine law to give to everyone. Whether Wu Xian is a piece of God's law with the same attributes as his own, or a piece of God's law that is different from his own attributes, as long as he gets it, he can make his own strength one step closer, or cultivate more Jiao for his own power. As a senior Holy Spirit Master, no one will remain indifferent. What City Lord Danzig said is right. There are so many fragments of the divine law here, so naturally everyone who sees them has a share. Electra from the Endless Sea was the first to speak out, looking at the fiery eyes. The fragments of God in the grey fog area. Indeed, if there are only 1 or 2 pieces of the God's law, we can't say anything, but there are no less than 10 here, and there are also many incomplete God's law chains. It would be a bit too domineering for a few of them to want to eat alone. Clarence and Electra were always in focus and sneered. I'm quitting. Just when a faint smile appeared at the corner of Danzig's mouth, Bosworth, who came from Tion High Continent in the crowd, suddenly spoke up and retreated from Hyam's camp. Huh? Bosworth's actions made Danzig's face suddenly darken. His eyes were full of coldness as he looked at Bosworth. Bosworth, there are 3 wind elements here. You are the only spiritual master of the wind element here. If you get it, 3 pieces of the wind element's divine element will allow you to break through to the 9th level. There shouldn't be any problem, right? There was an encouraging sound in Shik's voice. Bosworth glanced at him coldly and shook his head. Master Jason and the others found these fragments of God's law first, and judging from the scarred appearance on their bodies and the huge explosion that was transmitted from here before, it is obvious that they have experienced there was a fierce battle. These fragments of the gods were obtained after their hard work. Naturally they should own them. What an idiot. Danzig looked at Bosworth and cursed in his heart. Finally, his eyes fell on Hyams. Hymas, what do you mean? I saw that among these fragments of the divine law, there was a broken ice law chain. On this law chain, there was 4 gods and fragments. I think you, Hyams, have gained a lot in the past 10 months, right? As long as you get this incomplete law chain, you may be able to advance from the peak of the 9th level to a demigod. For Danzig, the most important thing here was the attitude of Hyams, the 9th level peak Holy Spirit Master. Hyams, the strongest man in the Arctic ice field, gave him a cold look. He didn't know what Danzig was thinking. He sneered in his heart, looked at Jason, and said with a smile, Jason, you are fine. I didn't thank you properly for what happened to Wayne last time, but I didn't expect to meet you again now. Hyams smiled with a smile on his face. Among these fragments of the divine law, there is an ice-based incomplete law chain, which is very important to me. It is very important. I see that among the 4 of you, there is no one who is strong in the ice system. This incomplete ice system magic chain is of no use to you. Why not give it to me? If you need anything after you are pregnant, I will definitely help. How about it? Hyams said with a smile. He was quite confident about his request. After all, he was the strongest in the current scene. I guess Jason and the others would not refuse him. Hyams, I'm sorry. I still have use for this ice-type law god chain, so I can't give it to you. As for reaching out and not hitting the smiling man, Hyams was polite, and Jason naturally wouldn't be cold either. However, Jason was not prepared to give this incomplete law of ice chain to the other party. After all, he didn't need it himself, but Wayne still needed it. In the void, the original smile on Hyams's face suddenly solidified. Hames, this Bispham and the others are too disrespectful. In this case, what else is there to say? Densik said coldly. Yes, Bispham, you have gone too far. We are not going to take away all the fragments of the gods here, as long as they belong to our attributes. Man perish for wealth, birds perish for food. How many of you can't be too greedy, otherwise, you will easily get nothing in the end. Several people came forward slowly and spoke coldly. Jason, what should we do? Bispham Sound Boat asked after seeing the actions of several people in the Grey Fog area. Leave them alone and collect all the fragments of the God's Code. If they dare to take action, I will make them regret their actions. Jason reached out and pocketed a fragment of the God's Code beside him, speaking indifferently. Yeah. The three of Bispham immediately ignored Densik and others, quickly looked for a safe passage, and collected all the fragments of the God's rules. Stop. Seeing the actions of the three people from Bispham, Densik could no longer bear it and flew over quickly. Whoosh! 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 As Densik moved out, Rosamund, Electra, and Clarence also flew forward quickly. This Jason is really like Hyams. Secretly shook his head and sighed, then turned into a stream of light and rushed forward. Although he has a good impression of Jason, in the face of interests, the so-called good impression can only be put aside. On the side, Bosworth, who was retreating, also had his eyes flashing, his spiritual power secretly flowing in his body, ready to take action at any time. It seems that Densik and the others are really ready to propose a toast instead of a penalty drink. Jason felt coldly in his heart and pocketed the last fragment of the God's Code. Faced with the strength of these people, but he was sneering in his heart. This Jason is simply too arrogant. We have tried so hard to talk about it, but he didn't even give us any face. We are really looking for death. Seeing Jason and the others taking all the fragments of the God's Code into their own pockets, Densik and others were filled with confusion. They were so angry that they drew their weapons one after another. Since they are unwilling to hand over the fragments of the God's rule, we will beat them up and hand them over. Densik said fiercely. Boom. The next moment, several terrifying pressures spurted out from the bodies of Densik and others. The terrifying aura surged out like a tide, covering the world. Densik and others held weapons and rushed frantically towards Jason and others who had returned to the safe area. Chong. Jason looked coldly at the spectators and quickly drew out the black heavy sword. Just when the two sides were about to collide, boom. Suddenly, the black rocky ground underneath suddenly burst open. In the smoke and dust, there was a terrifying spirit that was dozens of feet long and 10 feet high, like a small hill. The beast suddenly burst out from the ground, and the terrifying aura spread like a plague. This is a ferocious spiritual beast whose body is usually black, and its whole body is covered with black scales. Each of these scales is the size of a basin, with a black halo flowing around it, exuding a bloodthirsty and violent aura. As soon as the spiritual beast appeared, its red eyes fell on Jason in front of him. Its smelly bloody mouth opened wide, and with its roar, the entire safe meridian was like a fishy wind. This is Dark King Dragon Beast, a 9th level peak, close to a demigod. Seeing this terrifying spiritual beast, Densik and others stopped abruptly, with a look in their eyes. With uncontrollable horror, the figure stopped in mid-air, retreated involuntarily. The Dark King Dragon Beast is one of the extremely powerful spiritual beasts in the central area of the battlefield of gods. It is extremely powerful, surpassing the 9th level peak Holy Spirit Master, and is close to a demigod. Many powerful people present had participated in the last god's birthday. That time, when everyone was searching for the fragments of the god's rule, they encountered a Dark King Dragon Beast. Everyone didn't know how powerful this Dark King Dragon Beast was. At that time, they all launched fierce attacks on the Dark King Dragonmon. As a result, Densik and the others' attacks only cracked a few scales of the Dark King Dragonmon. Instead, the furious Dark King Dragonmon became fierce and tore them apart in one bite. He tore apart a ninth-level senior Holy Spirit Master, shocking everyone. In the end, everyone fled in panic, escaping the Dark King Dragon Beast's pursuit, but at least 3 strong men were easily torn into pieces by the Dark King Dragon Beast, with no bones left. Now, after seeing this Dark King Dragon Beast, Danzig and the others were immediately panicked. Roar! The Dark King Dragon Beast stared at Jason with its huge eyes like lanterns, full of violence, and a terrifying and violent aura continuously spurted out from it. Amidst the roar, Dark Kingderman aimed at Jason and turned into a black lightning and pounced out. Although this Dark King Dragon Beast is huge in size, like a hill, when it pounces, it is as fast as lightning, like thunder flashing. In the blink of an eye, it is in front of Jason, with a bloody mouth open, biting hard at Jason's location. "Jason, be careful!" Bisfam and the others all shouted in anger and stepped forward frantically. This Jason is coming to an end. What a pity for those fragments of God's law. Danzig and others also sighed in their hearts. What they regretted was not Jason's death, but that once Jason was killed by the Dark King, the Dragon Beast killed him, and the fragments of the god on his body were poured out. No one thought that Jason would survive under the attack of the Dark Kingderman. The Dark Kingderman was a terrifying spirit beast that could tear apart even the 9th-level senior Holy Spirit Master. Even the 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master, and will be seriously injured under its bite. Under everyone's thoughtful gazes, Dark Kingderman and Jason collided fiercely. Death. Just when Danzig and others thought that Jason would definitely die, a frightening roar, containing boundless power, like thunder, exploded in the world. As this roar sounded, a colorful rainbow suddenly bloomed from where Jason was in front of the Dark Kingderman. Wow! It was like the Milky Way pouring from the sky, and like the sun bursting in the sky. At this moment, the whole world was filled with colorful rainbow lights. Countless aurora rainbow bursts shot out in all directions, covering the entire safe area. Dyed in colorful colors. Boom! Endless spiritual power exploded, and terrifying auras continued to spread out. In everyone's shocked eyes, Jason held a black heavy sword and rushed out from the colorful rainbow light in the sky. A black streak sword rainbow burst out from the black heavy sword in Jason's hand. The black sword rainbow soared into the sky and penetrated the sky and the earth, like a divine sword connecting heaven and earth, piercing the sky. Jason's eyes were cold, like a god who controls the world, with no emotion in his expression. The black sword rainbow in his hand reached straight to the sky, and he aimed it at the head of the Dark King Dragon Beast and slashed it down. Wow! The void on the battlefield of the gods rippled like water, and the black sword rainbow fell from the sky. The void was split open like a water curtain, and fell on the Dark King Dragon Beast. Roar! The next moment, the Dark King Dragon Beast roared in pain. Under everyone's unbelievable eyes, the black heavy sword in Jason's hand was like a hot knife piercing lard, and it fell from the Dark King Dragon Beast's body. The head was chopped off, and the black sword rainbow spread from heaven to earth, and then fell hard from the back of Dark Kingderman. Pung! Silently, the black sword rainbow cut directly through the body of the Dark King Dragon Beast, and finally landed on the hard black stone ground in the safe area. The black sword rainbow, containing endless terrifying aura, sank directly into the ground, and the next moment it rumbled one by one. The ground in the safe area cracked, endless smoke and dust rose into the sky, and the terrifying spiritual power spread like a tsunami. The black stone ground in the safe area of the Onwu district in the battlefield of the gods instantly cracked under Jason's sword. A huge ravine that is thousands of meters long and tens of meters wide. However, this is not what shocked everyone the most. In everyone's horrified eyes, the huge body of the Dark King Dragon Beast, which surpassed the 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master and was close to the demigod, was directly split open, with countless internal organs and blood scattered. The two bodies that looked like small hills fell directly on both sides of the huge ravine, dripping with blood and shocking. Hiss! A sound of gasping sounded in the world. Everyone looked at the Dark King Dragon Beast that was split in half with dull eyes. Their hearts were filled with shock and twitching. The next moment, everyone looked at Jason with horror. A bone-chilling chill rose from the soles of their feet without warning and spread to their whole bodies in an instant. Killing the Dark King Dragon Beast with one sword, such strength everyone present was stunned, and their bodies were shaking due to the strong shock. Huh. In front of the huge body of the Dark Kingderman that was divided into two halves, Jason exhaled a long breath, took out the black spiritual core from the Dark Kingderman's head, and put it into the God of War tower. At the same time, his eyes were cold. He looked at Danzig and the others fiercely. You want to snatch the God's Eye fragments from my hands? Jason's plain voice sounded in this world, but when it fell in the ears of Danzig and others, it was like a thunderbolt from the blue, making their bodies shake. He couldn't help shaking. No misunderstanding, it was a misunderstanding before. Jason, Bispham, you were the first to discover this fragment of the God's rule. It naturally belongs to you. We have no objections. You too, on this day of the God's birth, and 2 months are coming to an end, so let's say goodbye first. Danzig hurriedly said, and then instantly turned into a stream of light, and he and Rosamund flew away from here without looking back. Master Jason, farewell, farewell. Electra and Clarence also hurriedly handed over their hands and left here in embarrassment. Jason. Hyams had a look of shock on his face. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. He wanted to say something, but in the end he couldn't say anything. He cupped his hands and left the place. Killing the Dark King Dragon Beast with one sword, with such strength, even if Hyams is a 9th level peak Holy Spirit Master, he will not be an enemy of Jason. If he stays, he will only bring humiliation to himself. In fact, not only Hyams and the others, even Bispham and the others who saw Jason kill Atkinson were shocked by Jason's previous power. Huh. Facing the stunned expressions of everyone and feeling the slightly painful meridians in his body, Jason let out a long breath. Others only saw him kill the Dark King Dragon Beast with one sword. Only he knew that the previous sword was the strongest sword he had ever wielded after he had been promoted to the 9th level of Advanced Holy Spirit Master, and he had gathered all his strength. This is also the reason why Dark Kingderman was careless and did not release the strongest attack at the beginning. After all, Dark Kingderman is a powerful spiritual beast that has surpassed the 9th level peak and is close to a demigod. If it happens again, even if Jason kills the opponent, there is no suspense, but at least dozens of moves must be exchanged, and only after consuming a lot of the opponent's vitality can it be done. Master Jason. In the sky, Bosworth, the last remaining person who had not left, flew down with a strange expression on his face. Bosworth was completely impressed by Jason. When he first got news about Jason in Tion High Continent, he was an 8th level peak Emperor spiritual master. But now, it has only been 2 years. Unexpectedly, Jason's strength has far surpassed him, so that he can only stay behind and look up to him. In the previous dangerous situation, Bosworth wanted to help Jason, but the result was that Bosworth could only smile bitterly. Bosworth. Seeing the other party, Jason also laughed. The next moment, 3 fragments of the divine code exuding an astonishing divine aura suddenly appeared in his hand and were thrown directly at him. Jason, what are you? Bosworth caught the fragments of the God's code thrown by Jason and was stunned. What he held in his hand were 3 wind-type God's code fragments. You are a Holy Spirit Master of the wind system. This fragment of the wind system has the greatest effect on you. Why, don't you want it? Jason laughed. He was always generous to his friends. These 3 wind-type divine code fragments were obtained by him before. There are also 2 wind-type divine code fragments on his body, which he left to his 3 disciples, Rongxing and Dini Sha, Rongxing and Dini. Although Sha is also a spiritual master of the wind system, his strength is not very strong. 1 piece for each person is enough. After all, although the divine fragments can quickly increase the level of a spiritual master for his future development, but there are serious restrictions. Feeling the strong divine aura coming from the fragment of wind divine law in his hand, and looking at Jason's sincere smile, Bosworth opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. Although among the 4 people on Jason's side, there is no Holy Spirit master of the wind element, but in the outside world, who does not have friends, relatives, and disciples. Even if they get fragments of the divine law that do not fit their own attributes in this battlefield of gods, most people's, the method was to bring them out of the battlefield of the gods and refine them for their closest relatives, but Jason's actions completely shocked Bosworth. Bosworth has always positioned the relationship between himself and Jason as one of profit. After all, the reason why he joined forces with Jason in Tion High Continent was entirely because he had to deal with Daniels in the God's Destruction Valley, plus Jason's identity as the elixir master. However, Bosworth did not notice that under his subconsciously, during the period of getting to know Jason, I was shocked and infected by Jason. In addition to the element of interest, there was also an additional friendship. But now, Jason's action of handing over the fragments of the Wind Divine Code without hesitation made Bosworth's heart completely convinced. Whoa! 6 moments later, Bosworth's right hand flicked, and the same 4 fragments of the divine law exuding an astonishing divine aura appeared in his hand and were thrown to Jason. Among these 4 divine fragments, there are 2 light elements, 1 illusion element, and 1 divine fragment exuding a strange aura of destiny. Jason, these 4 divine fragments were obtained by me on the battlefield of the gods in the past 10 months. They are not of much use to me, so I will give them to you. Bosworth said calmly. This is the fragment of the divine law of destiny. After seeing the fragment of the divine law that exuded a strange aura of destiny, McGrady immediately became excited. Haha, McGrady, look at your anxious look, don't worry, this divine fragment of the destiny system must be yours, you are afraid that I won't give it to you. Seeing McGrady's nervous look, Gozen teased. Haha. Everyone present burst out laughing. 1 day later. This is the deepest area in the gray fog area. It is surrounded by a large amount of gray fog all year round. For a few days, no one will come to this dangerous place. Huh. However, at this moment, a figure was flying carefully through the gray fog area, looking for a passage, and continued to enter deeper into the gray fog area. This figure is none other than Jason, who is preparing to go to the core area to find the fire spirit orb. As soon as Jason entered the safe area of the gray fog zone, he felt the breath of the fire spirit orb. However, due to his strength, Jason had never been able to take action. Now, after being promoted to the 9th level of Advanced Holy Spirit Master, Jason finally started the action he had been waiting for. The 5 element spirit beads have been Jason's strong support all the way up to now. They have special meaning to Jason. Each spirit bead is equivalent to a spirit ring and has special skills. What Jason is looking forward to is, these skills will improve to varying degrees as one's own strength improves, and will not gradually lose their effect as one's own strength improves, like Fatal Blow. After absorbing the God's Rule fragments, Jason is even more looking forward to the efficacy of the 5 element spirit beads. There seems to be something mysterious contained in these 5 element spirit beads. Unfortunately, with Jason's current strength, it is temporarily unavailable. It can't be solved yet. In the gray fog area, some gray fog blocking the road that could not be avoided was carefully moved away by Jason with his spiritual sense. In fact, these gray fogs move slowly. Even if you are not a spiritual medicine master, you cannot control the gray fog with your spiritual consciousness. As long as you observe carefully calculate every step, and spend a lot of time, ordinary spiritual masters can also enter. The core area, however, takes too long and is too dangerous compared to Jason. Flying in the gray fog area was monotonous and dangerous. Jason was highly concentrated and kept moving forward based on the attraction conveyed by the fire spirit beads. I don't know how long it took, but after Jason passed through the heavy gray fog, finally, a transparent film shining with colorful soft light appeared in front of Jason. Behind Najimo, looking in the distance, a black cane mountain loomed at the end of the line of sight. Are we finally reaching the core area? Jason murmured, feeling the faint terrifying pressure coming from behind the membrane, with excitement in his eyes. Whoosh! The next moment, Jason didn't hesitate and plunged into the film. Boom! Suddenly, a more powerful pressure suddenly enveloped Jason after he penetrated the membrane. This pressure was more powerful and terrifying than in the central area. Even Jason was able to resist by using all his spiritual power. The concentration of spiritual power here is actually 100 times that of the outside world, Jason murmured. Although he had some guesses about the core area, Jason was still shocked by it after actually entering. The concentration of spiritual power in the central area is 50 times that of the outside world, and the core area is even twice that of the central area, leaving Jason speechless. But at this moment, Jason could not care less about feeling the strong spiritual energy. He had no strength, but quickly looked around. Back then, the master of Bispham Tower once entered the core area. In his story, as soon as he and his two friends entered the core area, there were a large number of powerful spiritual beasts attacked. In a hurry, the two friends were killed. Only he escaped back to the central area. But at this moment, in front of Jason, there was a lonely wilderness. In the distant sight, a black mountain peak stood quietly at the end of the sight. There was nothing on the boundless land, only the strong wind whistling like a knife, and the ground glowed with a metallic light. Desolate, strange, and cold is the theme of this core area. There are no spiritual beasts. The empty wasteland made Jason frown slightly. A strange feeling of calling came from the black mountain peak in the distance, attracting Jason. The feeling of calling came from the black mountain peak. Could it be that the fire spirit bead that came out was in the black mountain peak in the distance? Jason pondered slightly in his heart and cast his gaze into the distance. The next moment, Jason quietly flew up, staying a few meters close to the ground, and slowly flew towards the black mountain peak in the distance. It's desolate, with no signs of life at all. After flying for a long time, Jason frowned slightly. This strange sign made him feel slightly uneasy. There is nothing in the Jihuang wasteland, but Jason does not dare to relax at all. He concentrated on observing carefully, and at the same time watched the surroundings vigilantly. Check to see if there are any pregnant creatures hiding in some inconspicuous places. Here, the consequence of carelessness is death, there is no second possibility. Huh? Suddenly, a strange aura came from everywhere, catching Jason's attention. In the darkness, there seemed to be some kind of terrifying creature, staring at him with cold murderous intent. What on earth is it? Jason frowned, his spiritual consciousness dispersed, and he looked around. Boom! Suddenly, the ground in the entire core area suddenly trembled, and a certain terrifying aura came out fiercely from beneath the ground and attacked Jason. Not good. Jason was shocked, and he suddenly shot up into the sky. Boom! The ground in the entire core area exploded suddenly at the next moment, and countless Pong Fu creatures exuding a terrifying aura rushed out from the ground. What? So many Dark Kingdommen? Jason's eyes glazed over for an instant, and his heart twitched violently. In his sight, a large number of Dark King Dragon beasts emerged from the ground, staring at him coldly with cold and violent eyes. Jason, at this moment, my heart suddenly sank to the bottom. In the sky, at this moment, Jason's heart suddenly hit the bottom, and his heart twitched violently. On the ground in front of Jason, the rocky ground glowing with metallic light suddenly exploded, and countless huge Dark King Dragon beasts emerged from the ground, staring at Jason with cold eyes. There was a bloodthirsty red light flashing. 1 head, 10 heads, 100 heads. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of Dark King Dragon beasts emerged from the ground, and their terrifying aura spread across 9 heavens and 10 places, making Jason's heart tremble, and all around him, at the end of the line of sight, there are still a large number of Dark King Dragon beasts emerging from the ground. As far as the eye can see, there are no less than 1,000 of them. 1,000-headed Dark King Dragon beast, what kind of concept is this? Just thinking about it, Jason couldn't help but twitch in his heart. The Dark King Dragon Beast is a terrifying spiritual beast that has surpassed the peak of the 9th level and is close to the existence of a demigod. If there are 2 heads, Jason can still kill them with his current strength. Once they reach 10, Jason will only have to escape. If it were 100, it would be enough to sweep across the entire Stern continent. Jason would not be able to resist at all. At this moment, there were at least 1,000 Dark King Dragon Beasts appearing in Jason's sight. Moreover, at the end of the line of sight, there are many Dark King Dragon Beasts emerging from the ground. It is unknown how many there are. No choice. Escape. Seeing so many Dark King Dragon Beasts appearing, Jason shot directly towards the Black Mountain without any thoughts in his mind. Boom! A violent breath spurted from Jason's body, and a 5-color rainbow bloomed. For a moment, in this gloomy, slightly dark core area, Jason was like a meteor sliding down the sky, dragging a 5-color rainbow shot rapidly across the desolate wilderness, shooting towards the Black Mountain peak in the distance. In fact, although Jason has been flying in this core area for a long time, due to extremely cautious reasons, Jason is not too far away from the junction of the core area and the central area at this moment, at least farther than the distance from the Black Mountain peak. It was much closer, but Jason still chose to fly to the Black Mountain peak. This was a decision he had already made in his heart. In Jason's heart, his desire for the fire spirit orb far exceeded the safety of his life. Roar! 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 And when Jason blasted towards the Black Mountain peak in the distance, a series of amazing roars sounded, and every Dark King Dragon Beast on the ground was like lightning. Like countless locusts, countless huge black shadows suddenly covered the sky, covering Jason in all directions, including the ground above his head. Kill! Jason held a black heavy sword and thunderous explosions burst out from his mouth. Boom! The shadow of the God of War suddenly appeared from behind Jason, and the possession of the God of War was cast in an instant. At the same time, Jason held the black épée, and the 5 colors of light on his body lit up at the same time. The black épée in his hand directly connected with the killer. Coming over, a Dark King Dragon Beast blocking Jason's path struck him. Jason's figure was shaken, and his eyes were cold. The black heavy sword emitted light and pierced directly into the abdomen of the Dark King Dragon Beast. A shrill roar sounded, and the black heavy sword in Jason's hand pierced the relatively soft belly of the Dark King Dragon Beast, and the heavy sword used the opportunity to lift it mysteriously at the same time. Tisk! The black heavy sword that spit out endless light directly cut open the entire abdomen of the Dark King Dragon Beast. A large amount of blood, like rain, sprayed down from the sky, along with the smelly internal organs. But then 3 Dark King Dragon Beasts attacked Jason at the same time. These 3 Dark King Dragon Beasts were divided into 3 directions. 2 of them waved their huge claws, sending light ripples out of the void, directly hitting Jason, while the other one even twitched a ferocious giant that was more than 10 feet long. The tail, like a mountain pillar collapsing, swept towards Jason. Not good. Jason's expression changed. He used the Forbidden Spirit domain and the water space at the same time, imprisoning a void, and at the same time dodging quickly. However, in terms of flying speed, these Dark King Dragon Beasts may not be as fast as Jason, but the attack speed of swiping claws and flicking tail was definitely much faster than the attack speed. Jason's figure could barely avoid the slap of the sharp claws, but the ferocious giant tail came behind Jason like lightning. In the crisis, black armor appeared on Jason's body. He turned around and struck out with his sword, but he could only block the dragon's tail with his black heavy sword. Bang! A deafening roar sounded, and endless spiritual power spread out. The scales on the Dark King Dragon Beast's tail burst open in an instant, shooting out in all directions. Countless blood sprayed in the air, and the Dark King Dragon Beast's mouth suddenly, there was a shrill roar, and Jason felt uncomfortable. There were tiny cracks on the black armor on his body. Jason endured the pain and quickly rushed out of the place with the impact of the giant tail. Surrounded by 3 dark kingdomans. Huh. The next moment, a large number of powerful attacks from dark king dragon beasts covered everything. If he had been slower, Jason would have faced the same attacks from dozens of dark king dragon beasts. During the flight, Jason quickly took out 2 bottles of elixir that exuded powerful spiritual power fluctuations, and quickly put them into use. Middle. An indescribable powerful force entered his body, and Jason's speed surged by 1/5 in an instant, like a streak across the sky, shooting towards the Black Mountain peak. If there were only a dozen or so dark king dragon beasts, perhaps Jason would have escaped the danger, but on this plain, there were at least 1,000 dark king dragon beasts densely packed, and Jason, just after escaping the attacks of more than a dozen dark king dragon beasts, dozens more dark king dragon beasts came from all directions on the ground. Ah! Jason roared angrily, and the 4 spiritual beads in his body were running wildly. The spiritual god Art and the god of war Art were operating to the limit at the same time, maximizing the amplitude of his combat power. However, Jason did not perform the god of death's appearance in the god-destroying technique. Firstly, it takes time to perform the god of death's appearance. Under such circumstances, Jason did not have this time at all. Killing several, or even nearly 10, dark king dragon beasts with 1 sword would be of no help to his escape, and would instead plunge him into a deeper desperate situation. Boom! 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 Jason flew all the way and fled, the black heavy sword in his hand dancing wildly, constantly spurting out bright brilliance, and the powerful aura spread like a volcano erupting, deafening. The roar of the explosion resounded throughout the world. "Damn it, get out of here!" Jason roared. During this not too long process, Jason had killed 3 dark king dragon beasts, but his black armor was also destroyed by a large amount of darkness. Kingdraman's attack exploded and it collapsed. The robe was torn and blood splattered. The wood spirit beads in the body rotated crazily, and the wood vitality surged out. Chi-Chi, Jason's cracked skin, was quickly repaired. At the same time, the earth spirit beads rotated, and the black armor on Jason's body was formed again. After being promoted to the 9th level of Advanced Holy Spirit Master, the special abilities carried by the 4 spiritual beads have also increased significantly. Phew! In front of these dark king dragon beasts that were as tall as hills, Jason was like a flexible fish, constantly dodging around while constantly approaching the Black Mountain peaks. Angry roars, deafening roars, powerful spiritual explosions, and various sounds resounded throughout the world. In a short period of time, Jason killed no less than 7 or 8 dark king dragons. The beast was injured countless times, but Jason was not uncomfortable either. The black armor collapsed several times, and his body was also covered with wounds. This is because these dark king dragon beasts are huge, each one is dozens of feet long and 10 feet high, walking like a hill. Although the attack range is large, there are inevitably gaps between them, plus Jason water. This is only possible if they are bound by the space and the forbidden spirit realm. Otherwise, whether these dark king dragon beasts have shrunk in size or are not bound by the water space, Jason is destined to be difficult to escape and will fall in a moment. Unfortunately, Jason's situation is not good now. Jason has only flown a quarter of the distance from the Black Mountain peak, but Jason's body is already scarred and he is a little weak. Roar! Kill! Kill! A roar filled with fierce murderous intent resounded throughout the world. Countless dark king dragon beasts roared, with sharp claws the size of houses and ferocious giant tails like mountain pillars. With their huge bloody mouths glowing with cold light, some dark king dragon beasts even used their hard heads and huge bodies to slam into Jason, blasting Jason with a large number of attacks. No. At the same time, more than a dozen dark king dragon beasts were attacking Jason in all directions, above his head, under his feet, in front, behind him, and on both sides. In total, more than 10 dark king dragon beasts were attacking Jason at the speed of each attack. All lightning fast, too fast. Jason used the water space to the extreme, and his body only had time to avoid a few attacks. At the same time, he blocked several attacks with the black heavy sword in his hand. Finally, the God of War tower was shot out from between the eyebrows by Jason, blocking 2 attacks and several others. Attack and slap on Jason at the same time. Pung! The black U armor that had reached its peak was shattered in the blink of an eye. Not good. The huge momentum coming from all directions on the ground was like countless drills, rushing towards Jason's body crazily. The powerful collision of their claws and giant tails caused the dark king dragon beasts to roar and fly away after the collision, and Jason was more like small glass beads under countless giant palms. They were thrown away. The skin on Jason's body burst instantly, blood splattered, and the vitality of the wood system in his body continued to spread. Jason's body recovered at an alarming speed. Can't stop it, it's too much. Jason coughed out blood, his eyes were crazy and sharp, he didn't even bother to stop repairing, and continued to fly forward without any hesitation. Roar! A large number of crazy roars sounded behind Jason. Jason looked back and saw bloodthirsty madness in the eyes of the dark king dragon beast.